All right, it is 10:01 and it's time for us to get this event going. Welcome everyone. We are so happy to have you join us this morning for this Southwest Ohio event for our Ohio Tech Ambassadors. You might know we were in Northwest Ohio last week, so we hopped on our Tech Ambassador bus and we drove down Highway 75. And this week we're down here in the land of the Reds and the Bengals, and all things Southwest Ohio. And we are really, really happy and excited to have Robert Shuemak here hosting this event with us. All right. So I'm going to take a second and I am going to share our agenda with you so you'll know what we're going to do in the meeting. All right, so here's what we've got going on today. So we're in this first part right now. This is our little intro that I'm doing just so you'll know what our event's all about. Then Robert and I together are going to present something that we're calling the core presentation. If you've been to other regional events, you will have seen this material because we do it in all of those events. We'll take a second and we'll show you a little video that we put together with something called our Tech Ambassador Code. And then it's going to be time for Robert to tell you his tech story. So that's going to be all Robert. We'll take just a second to ask the poll question I mentioned a minute ago. And then we're going to do a tech spotlight, which I think will be really interesting on community accessibility. I actually got to visit Robert last week, and he and I kind of worked on this together. And then at the end of the event, we'll give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions and hopefully provide you with some answers. We want to mention ways to keep in touch with what we're doing. The best place to go is our website at ohiotechambassadors.org. You can see our schedule. You can see links for the events that we'll have coming up, where you can sign up, and links to our YouTube channel as well. We do also have presences on both Facebook and Instagram. If you go to either of those two platforms and just search for Ohio Tech Ambassadors, you should find us very easily. And as I mentioned, we have a YouTube channel where we're posting all of the videos. We're recording all of our events. So those are all out there, as well as some other little videos that are related to the activity that we have. So you might know we've split the state up into 5 regions because we have 5 tech ambassadors. So all of the counties down in the bottom left-hand corner of this graphic are the ones targeted today by our Southwest event. And we want to take just a second and mention our event schedule. So we had our kickoff event on January 28th. This is the last of our round 1 of regional meetings. So we had those 5. We have a new event we've added a couple of years ago, or a couple of, weeks ago, called Tech Ambassadors Listen. So this is going to be a little different. It's going to be very little program, but an opportunity for individuals and families to just have a discussion with all of our tech ambassadors. They'll all be there. And so if you're an SSA or you're a county board employee, please encourage all of the folks that you can get to attend this, especially if there are people who have questions about technology. Then we'll have our round 2 of regional meetings throughout April and the early part of May. And then we'll have one statewide wrap-up event that we expect to happen late in May. Okay, on to what we're calling our core presentation. Robert, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm going to share this screen one more time. And here we go. So this is a presentation, as I mentioned, that we've done in all of our regional meetings. and it's the basics of supportive technology in Ohio. And as we introduce the 3 topics that we will talk about, we want to actually ask all of you 3 questions. And think about these. If you're an individual with developmental disabilities in the state, these are really intended for you. So if you are not one of those people, we want you to think about someone you know who is and put yourself in that person's position. So question number 1, do you have trouble finding direct care staff to come to your home? We do have, like a lot of states in the country, some shortages, some difficulties sometimes finding direct care staff. 2, would you like to live on your own if you do not already, but you have fears? Okay. And then the 3rd, which is a little bit of a different question, think back a year ago, before we had COVID-19, would you have considered telehealth, Zoom doctor visits, a realistic possibility before COVID-19? Something that we actually do quite a bit of these days. All right, so here's a little preview of the 3 things that we're going to talk about: assistive technology, remote support, and then technology first, which is a law signed a couple of years ago. And Robert was actually part of that. I'm going to let him talk about that here in a minute. Okay, first is assistive technology. So this is equipment or services. We normally think of them as electronic or battery operated in some way. It's not necessarily the case that they always have to be, but these are things that can help make life better, easier for our folks with developmental disabilities. So some examples of those things: digital assistants like Alexa or Google Home, smart appliances. There's a bunch of these. I won't mention each one. What I will do is just give Robert an opportunity to mention some of the assistive technology that he uses. Robert, you there?
Yes.
Give us some examples of some of the assistive technology that you use in your home.
First and foremost, I use a screen reader on my computer called JAWS. Primarily for work and personal. I use a iPhone 11 with VoiceOver, which is another type of screen reader that's built into the phone. I use Alexa. Stop. And let's see, I also use different apps on my phone to navigate the community, to access any type of features on my phone. I also use apps to read printed material, to tell me what an object is. So I use every type of technology I can get a hold of that's accessible to me.
That's awesome. And we're going to actually get a chance to see some of those in the tech spotlight.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk about remote support in a second, but assistive technology, these devices and or services, these are things that can just be, they can stand on their own and help folks. They don't have to be accompanied by remote support.
Right.
So question for everyone out there: which of the above did you already know about? Many of these are things that any of us might have in a home these days. Which of them do you use? And especially thinking again from the perspective of a person with a developmental disability, which could you use, right? Maybe are there some things on that list that you could use and don't? Okay, next topic is remote support. Okay, so this is something that is a service delivered in the state of Ohio to individuals with developmental disabilities. And it's been around for a long time, the better part of a decade. We used to call it remote monitoring originally. because originally it consisted of a way for people from a remote facility to just kind of keep track of what was going on in a home, but not really to interact with the people who lived in the home very much. These days, especially in the last maybe 2 to 3, 4 years, we've added the ability for direct interaction over two-way video to this service. And so now remote support is a much more appropriate term because we can interact with the people on the other side of that conversation. And this could be used for all kinds of things, right? Now that we've got the interaction piece, not only can the folks see what might be going on in the home because they can interact with a smart door lock or a thermostat or a temperature sensor, but they can also talk to the folks who live in the home and help them cooking or dressing or checking on medication, all kinds of things. So this helps people live more independently, obviously, because they may not need direct care staff in their home physically. And it helps cover shortages where we cannot find direct care staff for everyone. And this is a key thing. It is completely customized to the needs and wants of an individual, right? Only necessary equipment's put in place. So if you were a person who felt a little bit odd about there being a camera inside your home, a video camera that let people see, that's not a requirement. You don't have to have that. Okay. Now, unlike assistive technology, which can stand on its own, if you're going to deliver remote support, you almost always require some sort of assistive technology in the home. That's a part of that remote support. Now, I'm going to kick this over to Robert for a second because, Robert, you do not use remote support, correct?
No, I do not. I have enough independence where I don't need assistance through remote support. I have a couple of aides that come in and just do the basics with cleaning and preparing meals and medicine reminders, which I really don't need them for that aspect anymore with my A lady here. She does that for me. So, but no, I never invested into it because of the independence and freedom that I'm.
Okay, and that's important too, right? So a person like Robert may not need remote support, but he also doesn't really have a whole lot of direct care staff at his house for long periods of time either.
No.
And that's one of the key things that remote support often replaces. Let me back up a slide because I want to make sure we ask these questions for folks to think about. So did you already know about this service? Was this something that you were familiar with already? And again, thinking from the perspective of that person with a developmental disability, do you use the service? Could you use this service? All right, last topic, technology first. So this was an executive order signed almost 3 years ago by Governor Kasich. And Robert, you got to be at that signing, is that right?
Yeah, me and a couple of advocates from around the state were actually in that huge office. I have never seen an office that big. I don't know what the point is, really. It's just looks like an apartment. That's just that big. But I was actually there to, witness him signing the document for law and so on.
Awesome. I put a link here in the presentation to the actual order that was signed. It's really pretty easy to read, maybe 3-4 pages at the most. But we'll summarize what it actually did. It basically stated that supportive technology is going to be prioritized when addressing the needs of people in Ohio who have developmental disabilities. So the question shouldn't really be just could we use technology? It's more like, why couldn't we use technology? Let's suggest that first. Right. And then the other thing that this order did was it created the Ohio Technology First Council. So this is a group of people that's been meeting for that 3 years. to try to work on the service and the way that it's delivered and the things that it covers, and all types of supportive technology to make this the most realistic option that they can make it for people in our state. All right, so just real briefly, if you're an individual in a state and you're curious about technology, we just want to make sure we cover what would you do if your SSA or service coordinator is not discussing technology with you as a preferred solution. We got a lot of great SSAs in the state. And so I feel confident that most of our people are probably not going to experience this situation. But if you did, the first thing you would want to do is just advocate for yourself, or maybe have a personal advocate of yours talk to that SSA and just emphasize to them that you do want to use technology. Worst case, you could contact the SSA director in your county, or even follow a complaint process in your county if that were to be necessary. Every county in the state of Ohio does have one of those. So the key there is you do have the right to use technology and to discuss that as an Ohioan. Okay, so here's a question for everyone, not just people with developmental disabilities, but county board staff and SSAs who might be attending today. What would it take for you to truly follow technology first as a philosophy, either for your life or for the way that you deal with the people that you are serving? All right, just a quick wrap up here. So assistive technology and remote supports provide a way to cover direct care gaps where those exist, and to help people live more independently and without needing to have staff in their home. Technology first provides sort of the impetus or the directive for us to really prioritize these technologies. And we'll leave you with this question. Think back to the question about telehealth over Zoom. In a similar way to how we now consider this to kind of be realistic, even though maybe most people didn't a year ago, we were kind of forced into a situation due to COVID where we sort of had to do some of these things. And then once we did them, we thought, okay, yeah, that can work. Could we have the same situation with remote support and assistive technology? Could these things work if we really just stepped out there and tried to use them? Anything you want to add as a footnote to that, Robert?
Well, as you probably see, I was shaking my head, and I'm doing that because, technology that's available today can help people in all aspects of their life. You just have to be willing to imagine that it could happen. I didn't start using Zoom until the pandemic because we had no need to meet online. We always met in person, so I'd go to the office, have meetings in person. But the technology has made it a lot more efficient. It takes less time for me to travel back and forth because I don't have to go anywhere. Just have to roll up to the computer and turn it on. So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so right before Robert tells you his tech story, we do want to take a second and show you a little video that we put together. This video came out of some planning sessions that we did as a group before we started doing our events. We had all of our tech ambassadors together with our core team, and we talked about a wide variety of things. And so we asked our tech ambassadors to just think about what this opportunity was. What is it to be a tech ambassador? And then we got them all together, and for about 20 or 30 minutes, we just listened to them tell us what they thought. Wrote all of their feedback down and kind of boiled that down to something that we call the Tech Ambassador Code. And so we've got a little video that we want to show you that encapsulates that code.
Ambassador. I am a leader.
I lead by example.
I will speak up as an advocate
and promote the use of appropriate technologies
in all aspects of life.
I'm a listener.
I listen to my peers
and try to understand them beyond their words.
I am a communicator.
I use my comfort with myself
to help me be comfortable talking to others.
I am knowledgeable.
I constantly learn technologies
and how they best can be used
to improve independence.
I am creative.
I think on many levels
for possible solutions
for my peers and others.
I am accessible.
I am visible to my community
and easy to reach.
I am responsible.
I follow up with my peers
and others who reach out to me
after and between events.
I am relatable.
I talk to my peers as equals,
including both my successes
and struggles in my story.
I am a tech ambassador.
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 All right. That never gets old. We show that every one of our regional events. Okay, Robert, it is time for you to tell your tech story. Are you ready to go?
Sure.
Take it away.
Alexa, start a timer for 10 minutes. Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. My name is Robert Shuemak. I am the Tech Ambassador for Southwest Ohio region. I appreciate everyone coming and being a part of this webinar. I'm going to basically tell you my story, my long journey that started in 1969 when I was born. I was born with visual impairment, which left me partially blind. My mother did not know until I was about 2 years old. When I started school back in the 70s, they did not know a lot about how to educate a person who was visually impaired, except by teaching them braille. I felt personally that I had enough sight that I could learn to read like all the other kids. I just needed some accommodations. We use large print. We also use the first piece of technology that I was able to use was in the 4th grade. It was called a closed circuit television, which was basically like a 10-inch TV, and it was mounted onto a base, and on the side of the television, it had a camera with a magnifier. And up under the camera, you would put a piece of paper and it would magnify onto the screen what was on the paper. That's how I read books. That's how I did math worksheets. Of course, it was very tedious. It was very large print, so it was slow. Then as I moved through school, the technology began to improve. The CCTVs got better and bigger. Hamilton County was assigned to have a mobility instructor take me out into the community and teach me how to navigate with my visual impairment. You know, it wasn't a technical thing because there was nothing out at the time, but it was more of a, um, I don't know, more, it was skills that are valuable today. And people wonder how I am visually impaired and get around so well in my environment. And it's because of the early mobility training I had. When I got into high school, you know, back in the, oh, wow, probably the early 80s, um, 83 or so, that's when computers were beginning to be, you know, used in schools. I remember the Apple II and the Apple IIe, um, and I'd be in the computer class just doing graphics because at that time that's all I could do. And you just had to, you know, if you can imagine a piece of graph paper and lining up the right side with the bottom and the two lines intersecting, that's where you would put a color, and then you would use those graphics to create a picture. So it was kind of, I had to learn to visualize in my mind how something would look and then construct it based on putting these points together. That's a story I've never told. So, but eventually, school was very difficult for me. I went to a school that was very, very good school district, Sycamore School District here in Cincinnati, Ohio, Hamilton County. But they weren't one of the top school districts when it comes to dealing with people with disabilities. They didn't have a lot of people with disabilities, except learning disabilities and visual impairments. At that time, I was one of the first in the school, as far as I know. Um, so I ended up dropping out of school in probably the 11th grade. And, you know, my mother wasn't happy about it, but she understood what the problem was. I worked for a couple of years here and there. And then I ended up going back to get my GED when I was about 25 years old. I studied for the GED for 2 years, took the whole exam orally, which meant someone proctored the exam, they read it to me, and I answered orally. As far as I know, I was one of the first people in the state to do that and actually pass all 5 sections. So I have my GED in hand in 1995, spent the next 5 years learning technology, the computer. I started using the JAWS screen reader back in 96 or so. And then in 2000, I went to my BSVI counselor, which is an OOD counselor, what they call it now, and asked if they would send me to college. They said, yeah, but we want you to work for a year before we do that. So they helped me find a job at a place called Gannett Tellsale, which was a customer service representative for the Cincinnati Enquirer. So I sold the Enquirer newspaper for a year. I was the one that would call you and bug you about trying to buy the Inquirer. And we used the screen reader to navigate the screen, to fill in the form fields, and that was my first real live work experience with a screen reader back in 1999. So JAWS has been around for about 25, almost 30 years, and it's evolved tremendously where it could do almost anything you want it to do now. I've read stories of people who program with JAWS who are actually work for Apple, Microsoft, Google, all the big tech companies. They have hundreds of people with disabilities working in their companies who use adaptive software and equipment. I say that to say that any of us with disabilities can have the opportunity to do whatever it is we want to do in life. We just have to find the right technology to serve our needs. The A-Lady has been one of the biggest help in my life as far as keeping me on task, reminding me of appointments, vacations, create to-do lists. Of course, she's wonderful with music. Oh, it looks like my 10 minutes are up. Alexa, stop. So to wrap it up real quick, technology, the iPhone and the Androids, they all have built-in screen readers for people who are blind. So no matter what your disability is, there is technology solutions out there for you. We as Tech Ambassadors can help you find the appropriate technology for your needs. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. And when it's time, I'll take any questions you might have.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's great. By the way, in case you didn't pick that up, I think that's the second time Robert's referred to the A-Lady. That is his term for Alexa. And I think he's probably doing that so that he can avoid having her chime in since she's right there with him, right?
Yeah.
All right. I love that. Okay, so we're going to take just a second before our tech spotlight and ask you a poll question, actually 2 poll questions. So I'm going to launch that poll right now. And these poll questions both have to do with barriers that people might experience, okay? Question number 1, what is the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities attending events like this one? And then the second question, what is the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities using technology in their lives? So we hope you'll give us some feedback here. We've asked these same 2 poll questions in events across the state, and we really want to know what you think here. People's viewpoints sometimes lead them to decisions about, whether that they use technology, right? Or whether they might come to an event like this one. So, your feedback on these 2 questions is going to help us sort of understand the attitude of our audiences here. Okay, so we'll give you just another minute to answer these 2 poll questions. Again, question number 1, what is the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities attending events like this one? Question number 2, what is the biggest barrier to people with developmental disabilities just using technology in their lives at all? So we've still got some answers coming in. And while I leave that open for just a second, I'll set up the next portion of our event today, which is the Tech Spotlight. So Robert is very passionate about community accessibility. And so I took the opportunity last Friday to actually drive down to Cincinnati and hang out with Robert for a few hours. And we took some video of what it's like for him to engage with the community. Right? Well, that I'm leaving that intentionally vague. Really, what we did was we found a bus and we caught a bus and we took a bus ride. So his Tech Spotlight is going to feature some video from that. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. Thank you very much for your feedback there. We greatly appreciate it. So I'm going to share this video of Robert and I catching a bus. Are you still there, Robert? I do not hear from Robert. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and start this video. And hopefully, hopefully Robert will be able to join us. All right. I am going to share this video with you. Okay, here we go. We'll pause a couple of times during the video and kind of supplement some things that you see here.
Open the Transit app.
Transit. 51 Glenway Crossing, Hyde Park Oakley, Glenway Crossing, and stop, Dana Avenue, and Reading Road. 43 Reading Road, Winton Hills, Bond Hill, inbound, and stop, Reading Road, and Dana Avenue. Next departures in 9 minutes real time, 22 minutes real time, 27 minutes real time. 43 Reading Road, Winton Hills, Bond Hill, inbound, and stop, Reading Road, and Dana Avenue. Next departures in 9 minutes real time, 22 minutes real time, 27 minutes real time. Adjustable.
Okay, so I have 3 options here. A bus is going to where I want to go. Down toward Family Dollar within the next, looks like 22 minutes. Every minute that goes by, it'll let me know how many minutes I got left.
Okay.
So the bus arrives at the bus stop.
Now, did you tell the app where you wanted to go?
No.
Okay. So you were just looking for
'Cause
buses that are going to arrive.
But you can do that. There is a,
43 Reading Road, Winton Hills, Bond Hill.
like you
51
can
Glenway Crossing, Hyde
say,
Park Oakley,
okay, I
Glenway
want to
Crossing, and stop,
go
Dana Avenue, and Reading
downtown.
Road. Next departures in
And
17
then
minutes real
we'll-
time, 47 minutes real time, at 12 hours, 38 minutes real time. 43 Reading
You
Road,
know
Winton
what,
Hills, Bond
I've
Hill,
never
inbound,
done that
and stop,
'cause I
Reading
know the
Road,
bus
and Dana
route
Avenue.
so
Next
well.
departures in 47
Yeah.
University Hospital.
Inserted University Hospital. Clear text. Button. Switch directions. Button. Options. Button. Q. Quebec. Options. Switch directions. Clear text. Button. Line or destination. Search University Hospital in contacts. Search results. Get directions to University of Cincinnati Medical Center, 234 Goodman Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45219, United States. Time options. Leave now. Button. Refresh. Button. Dismiss. Button. Trip. Go in 10 minutes. Real time arrival at 11 hours. 53 minutes. Using. Bus 51. Double tap to trip. Go in 1 minute. Real time arrival at 11 hours. 47 minutes. Using. Bus 43. Trip. Go in 6 minutes. Real time arrival at 11 hours. 59 minutes. Using. Bus M plus. Other options.
Okay, so it gave me 3 options.
Right.
51, 43, and what was the other one? Probably 46. So I just choose the options. It gave me the time. And that's my first time using it.
Because you already knew all the bus
Right.
routes.
I know all the
25.
routes. So.
Status bar item. Swipe 11:25 a.m. Soundscape.
Okay, so
Downloads and markers.
that's
Heading.
that's the transit app.
All right. Well, it sounds like maybe we're going to go out and catch a bus. Which bus are we going to catch?
We're gonna catch a 43.
Oh, we're gonna cross.
On this way.
Ah, okay.
That's the 43.
Gotcha.
Now, the Netscape just told me that I'm at the crosswalk.
Okay.
So we're going to pause that for just a second. And I don't know if Robert's had a chance to rejoin us. Robert, are you back?
Yes.
You want to talk about the app that told you you were at the crosswalk for everyone?
Yeah, the app that I use is called Soundscape, and it's a navigational app. So it's actually an app. It's free. It's from Microsoft. It's only right now for iPhones, which I find interesting because people use Androids too. So we're gonna have to talk to Microsoft about that. But it is basically my eyes. I navigate sidewalks and curbs and obstacles based on its actual feedback. It's a DC talking GPS.
Right. And so it told you you were at the crosswalk and you knew to
Oh
reach
yeah,
the
it
button.
said, hey, you're at the crosswalk and you're facing this direction.
That's great. And for those of you Android users who might be interested, there is another app that's very similar. I think Robert told me about it. It's called Around Me.
Yeah.
That's also very similar.
Yeah, there are several apps that are GPS navigational type apps that will tell you obstacles, not obstacles, but tell you buildings, addresses, street names all around you. So there's a lot of choices.
All right, great. And you will notice once you see Robert get on the bus here in a minute that he's actually using that app to tell him what things we're driving by as well. It's a little hard to hear while he's on the bus, so we'll just mention that now. All right.
Yeah, and it's best with headphones. Southwest on Redden Road.
All right. Robert, I appreciate you letting me come down and join you for that little adventure. And it was, let's see. can we get your video back on? There you are.
No problem. No problem. It was fun. It was, I hadn't been out in a while and rode the bus, so it was a interesting experience again, and it felt good.
Good. It's a little chilly that day.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't like bad.
Yeah. So it's time for us to answer questions. So if anyone would like to ask a question live, you can raise your hand, click the little raise hand button there, and we will promote you to be a panelist. And then if you'd like to share your camera and your microphone, you can ask that question live. And there we have one. Great. All right. Kate, it looks like. So feel free if you'd like to, Kate, to share your camera and your microphone with us.
Oh, I have to figure, I'm on my iPad, so I had to figure out where it had to go. Okay.
We can see you. Hi.
I'm Kate Fatman, and I'm with the Ken Anderson Alliance here in Greater Cincinnati. But this is more, Robert and I are going to have to get together because we're building a whole community that will house both those with disabilities and those without. So we're going to have to get together and talk about all the different ideas he has for remote options there in our community as we're building it. But this is more a personal question about my son. I have a son on the autism spectrum who's 26. He's living with 2 other guys. He doesn't need a lot of support, so he's not getting it. The biggest area he's having problems with is budgeting. I'm still handling most of his money, but he tends to spend too much money on video games with the amount he has left. Yes. So we've tried different apps. We're working with NerdWallet right now, but do you have any information about any apps that would help with budgeting?
I don't use budgeting apps, but I could definitely find some budgeting apps for you. You can send me an email and tell me, just about the question you had at the Robert at Ohio Tech Ambassadors.org, and I will find you a few apps.
Yep.
He
needs one that has a hammer that comes out and hits him on the head when he spent more than he's supposed to that month. And I know that doesn't exist, but
probably not.
Anything that will help. Anything that would help would be
that
great.
That might border on abuse as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Good question, though.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Email and we can get together and talk about ideas for
no
the
problem.
Ken Anderson Alliance Live community too. So
wonderful. Thanks very much for your question. Just in case, and this is not only for Kate, but for everyone else, if you go to the front page of our website and scroll down where you can see pictures of our tech ambassadors, there's little buttons right there you can click if it's hard to remember the email address. And that should just open up your email, and you can just email Robert or others right there. So thanks again to Kate. Let's see. We have a question in our Q&A, and this is a real easy one for Robert. What's the name of the navigational app that Robert called? And this person said they didn't catch it.
There's 2 of them.
Right, 2 apps.
I want to call it Netscape, but that's not it. Sound, like you hear a sound,
Soundscape, right. And then what was the first app where we were looking for the buses again?
It's called the Transit app.
Great.
And the interesting thing about the Transit app, it doesn't matter what city or state you're in, it works no matter where you're at. It connects with the local transit system.
Yeah. Great. Here's another question. By the way, we did get a couple of people posting in the Q&A about some budget-related things that might
Good.
help Kate and her son. So that's awesome.
Good.
Here's a question from Jason. How do you ensure that tech is used for autonomy and independence and not, as with other models, degrading into monitor surveillance and restricting people? So I'm going to assume that that has to do with remote support. Okay. And the answer to that question is that these companies are only able to even offer this service if they are approved by the department, the State Department of Developmental Disabilities. So I'm very sure that any feedback that individuals or families were to give, if the service did somehow degrade or even not meet their standards, I'm sure they would be paying attention to that feedback.
I would agree.
Yeah. Let's see. Other questions? Anyone else want to ask a question live? We've got just a few more minutes here. All right. Here's a question. Let's say you were going to use the remote support service and the power goes out in your house. So since a lot of these technologies that are used to deliver the service use electricity, what would happen? That's a question that we get from time to time. And that's a good question, but it's important to know that most of the companies that deliver remote support have options where they could, one, deliver the service over a phone line, which does not require power, and can deliver the service even two-way video in cases over a device that's like an iPad. In some cases, it actually is an iPad that has a battery life, right? And could last hours and hours and hours after the power went out. So that's a good question, but that is not really a limitation in the way that a lot of people might think it is.
Not nowadays, anyway.
Right. Let's see. Any more questions that anyone wants to ask live? We're getting some comments here, and they're very nice comments, but not necessarily questions. All right. How about this one? If we're considering the remote support service, is that something that could happen just for, let's say, an hour a day or a couple of hours a day? Let's say a person was considering the service, but maybe just wanted to try it out to see if it was going to work for them and their family. And the answer is yes, that is quite possible. You could have remote support for even just an hour a day, or sometimes even less. So that's a realistic thing for folks to be able to do, to try that service out. All right. Robert, anything more you want to share? We've got just another minute or two.
Well, I just want to let everyone know that feel free to contact me about any technology issue or question or thoughts or experiences you may have. And if I can help you find the answer, I most definitely will. If I can't find it, I can refer you to the other 4 tech ambassadors. Doesn't matter what part of the state you're in, we all can help. And we all work together as a team. So just because you're in Northwest Ohio doesn't mean you can't contact me. Northwest Ohio and Southwest Ohio, we work together to help you find solutions that meet your needs. And thanks again. I appreciate all your questions and thoughts. And see you soon.
Great. I just want to real quick kind of plug our next event again because it wasn't on our original event schedule. It's called Tech Ambassadors Listen. It's on April 6th at 10 in the morning. Very soon we'll have a Zoom link for that available at our website where we can sign up for that. And again, that is tailored specifically to our individuals in the state and their family members, just for them, just for us to hear them. And that's why we called it Tech Ambassadors Listen. All right, we'll take this opportunity to just say thank you to all of you who came today. Thanks to our ASL interpreters doing a wonderful job as they usually do. Thanks so much to Robert and the other members of our core team here who've been helping us out with putting this event on. We so appreciate you guys. And April 6th, that Tech Ambassadors Listen event will be the next thing that we're doing. So, Robert, you want to say a quick farewell?
Farewell, everyone. Have a blessed day.
You guys all have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.